Good morning and welcome back to RC Truth Media. Today we're going to be talking about the trade war between US and China. This is an article from Zero Hedge from this morning titled, "Here are the 6 ways China could retaliate in a trade war with the US." It's all about the trade war between the US and China this morning, and more specifically, how will President Xi retaliate to Trump? For those who missed the overnight fireworks, late on Monday, President Trump asked the U.S. Trade Representative to identify $200 billion in Chinese goods for further tariffs of 10%, which will be imposed if China refuses to change its practices and goes ahead with its retaliation threat. While he also stated that China raising tariffs is unacceptable and that the U.S. will pursue tariffs on another $200 billion of Chinese goods if China increases tariffs yet again. Predictably, though, China, which last week reacted instantly to Trump's first round of $50 billion in tariffs, again responded immediately, wasting no time in accusing Trump of blackmail. China's Commerce Ministry said on its website that if the U.S. irrationally moves forward with the tariffs, then China has no choice but to forcefully fight back with qualitative and quantitative measures. China's response is to safeguard the interest of the country and its people, China's MOFCOM said, adding that the U.S. practice of extreme pressure and blackmail departed from the consensus reached by both sides during multiple negotiations, and also has greatly disappointed the international society. But now that the chips are on the table and President Trump is locked into a tit for tat strategy with China, from which neither he nor Xi can defect without losing face, the question is, how exactly will China retaliate to punish the U.S. while minimizing the damage to China's economy as much as possible? And there are 6 possible things that China can do at this time in order of escalating severity. Number 1. China could de-escalate tensions by presenting a list of actions it will follow to reduce its significant trade deficits in services with the U.S. This could affect education services, institutions, the local tourist industry, and entertainment. However, as the CFR's Brad Setzer writes, it increasingly looks like the administration is putting China in a position where China cannot make concessions without appearing to cave, which most think China won't do. Setzer is not alone on this and has trouble seeing a de-escalation option if Trump goes through with the $200 billion in tariffs. Option number 2, China will likely launch an economic subsidy for its economy in the form of further easing in financial conditions to offset any potential trade drag. Some, such as Deutsche Bank, have proposed that in order to offset the negative hit to its consumers, China will loosen policies such as tolerating the property and land market boom in Tier 3 cities and cutting the RRR twice over the rest of the year to partly offset the potential drags. This would also involve a modest devaluation of the yuan. Now, this is something that President Trump would want to happen because it would even the playing field a lot more. And that's something that we need. Right now, there's $500 billion in debt that the U.S. is going into with China each year. And that does not sound like an equal level playing field. Option number 3. China could unleash differential treatment of local enterprises. As some have suggested, Beijing could simply opt not apply its market access liberalization policy that was recently announced. This could greatly disadvantage U.S. firms. Beijing could also engage in an aggressive crackdown on U.S. firms operating in China like Apple and hinder border passage of U.S. products like the automotive, or pursue antitrust and monopoly allegations against U.S. tech names like Macron. There is absolutely a lot of businesses that are in China. Many companies and corporations have moved to China during the past 10, 15 years because of how much it costs to do business in the United States and California. And so, yes, China could definitely impose a tax on these American businesses that are over there. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. Option number 4. China could also choose a diplomatic retaliation and order Kim Jong-un to scuttle the recent agreement North Korea had signed with the U.S., humiliating Trump by showing that it was Beijing all along who made the U.S. North Korea summit possible and successful. Option number 5. China could pick an aggressive route, and instead of a mild depreciation, it could aggressively pursue a weaker yuan to boost trade competitiveness, which ironically is the catalyst behind much of the Trump administration's animosity towards China. To achieve this, China would relax some of the capital control measures that have helped strengthen the renminbi in the past 2 years. That said, such a move would unleash sizable outflow demand while boosting precious metals and cryptos. The U.S. would also brand China a currency manipulator. I don't see that absolutely happening at all, because right now China doesn't like cryptos. They're not an advocate for the crypto markets, and so I wouldn't want to. I'd want to see them do this, but I don't think that they're gonna do anything right now that's gonna help the crypto markets. We'll see though. Option number 6. China finally could pick the nuclear option and gradually or suddenly liquidate its treasury holdings. This is a long-running worry by markets given China's $1.2 trillion in treasury holdings. In January, Bloomberg reported that this was a possibility, which was at the time denied by China's State Administration of Foreign Exchange. However, the recent liquidation of half of Russia's treasuries was seen by some as a rehearsal for what would happen if Beijing decides to pursue this approach. Now, Beijing and China, they hold, like it says right here, $1.2 trillion in United States Treasury. So if they were to sell this or get rid of the reserves of our currency, of United States currency, this would devalue the dollar. And we are at the last leg of the dollar already. We're at the last four, or under the last 4 cents of its purchasing power compared to when the Federal Reserve started. And so if they were to do this, it would completely ruin our currency, and China has the possibility of doing this. It could also be some combination of the above, or simply continue the tit for tat. According to overnight press reports, China is already preparing a second round of tariffs on U.S. energy, U.S. oil, gas, and coal face 25% levy and threatened second round of duties. As a reminder, as noted above, whatever China does, the biggest challenge for Beijing would be how to inflict the least damage on its own economy and credibility while hurting the U.S. Up until now, China has been responding in a tit-for-tat manner and has avoided implementing more damage than the U.S. has with a measured, conciliatory tone in its statements. But that could soon change. And finally, there is the market's angle. While Beijing would likely want to avoid a currency or bond market, a recent analysis by Goldman Sachs concluded that the tit-for-tat statement to be broken. In order for the tit-for-tat statement to be broken, the markets would have to tumble. And while many believe that China would prefer to avoid directly rivaling markets, it may soon have no other choice if it plans to send Trump a message. After all, overnight the Shanghai Composite just plunged to its lowest level in 2 years. Will President Xi now return the favor? Keep an eye on the Treasury yields, and of course stocks, for that answer. Now, we have a lot to see in the next few days, because $200 billion worth of tariffs might be implemented on China, and they've already said that they will come right back with another $200 billion on us. Now, a lot's going to be happening. I do think that this is the start. Actually, we've started the devaluation, and we've started the change into the new system a long time ago. But we're getting deeper and deeper into the start of our new currency system, which I believe is going to be cryptocurrency. Okay, so if right now is actually a great time to get into Bitcoin. I'm not sure what the governments are going to implement as their coin. It's probably not going to be Bitcoin, but when the governments get in this, it's going to be a centralized currency. Again, that's what they want to keep it. They want to keep a centralized currency so they can tax you, so they can know everything you're doing. That's what the governments want to do. Well, that's the deep state. Okay, there is some good in some governments. Most governments have good and bad, but a lot of the bad. Okay, and what we're trying to do is dig out that bad. And right now, it is the time for that. Okay, we are in the age of Aquarius, which a lot of you know. And what this means is we are headed toward a time of equality. Okay, and love and peace will reign on our earth. We are gonna have um, we're gonna have connected connectiveness with people like we've never had before. We're gonna be able to read people. Not We're not gonna be able to lie to people. Okay, and this is all has to do with consciousness and our evolution in consciousness. Okay, those of you who know about this, there's many who know that we are going from third to fourth density, and in doing that, you're gonna have new systems come about in all ways. We're gonna have, and we see this in our weather. We see this in our society. We see this in the governments. We see this in our relationships across the globe. And this is the time of change. Okay, the age of Aquarius, where we are all going to turn into a collective consciousness. Those of you who know, it's good to know. And those of you who don't, do some studying. As Jesus says, if you knock, you shall find. Okay, those were true words. A lot of the story of Jesus, I don't believe, such as that he was um, the only Son of God. We are all sons and daughters of God. This is for sure. Okay, and we all, just like Jesus said, can do what Jesus could do and much more. Okay, we could do much more. Those of you who know this, it's good to know. Thank you a lot for coming to my channel. Have a great day. I'll leave a link below if you want to donate. I'll be having a lot more truth videos coming out, a couple more today. Have a great day.